Hello, everyone. Marjorie Roman here, and welcome back to another episode of Creating Wealth with the one and only our maestro, Robert G. Allen. Thank you so much for
Ta-da!
And today's topic is going to be about one of your 50 nothing down techniques. So tell us, what is the down payment with no mortgage payment?
Right, so there are 50 nothing down techniques. They're really not 50. They're probably 5,000 because it's all about creativity. It's like coming up with a solution that solves a seller's problem without you coming up with money out of your own pocket. So I nailed it down to 50 because I wanted to make it simple for anybody to understand. And I break them into like who are the 10 people that you would be using, who are the 10 players in the game, basically. So when it comes to this one is defer the down payment with no interest rates, no monthly payments. It's a seller technique. It's basically when you're talking to the seller, you say, seller, you say you want to have a certain price point. Mm-hmm. I know that price is high. You know, if I were to try to sell that property in the marketplace now, I wouldn't be able to get that. But if I'll give you your price. I will pay you the amount you say you want. If you give me a way for me to maybe solve my own problem, for example, this is how I would be able to pay your price. Suppose this price is, $20,000 above the market, and the market is softened or is softening, and therefore he's always had in his mind, or she has always had in her mind, that they want to have a certain price or they won't sell. Well, if you were to say to them, I tell you what, I'll make you a down payment of $10,000 and I'll give you your price. It's just that I want you to have there to be no monthly payment for the first year. In other words, I'll pay you your interest rate starting in a year from now. In the meantime, I'll rent out your place. Maybe it's a duplex or a 4-unit apartment building. And therefore, you collect all the rent and you start putting that money away to save up for your down payment. And then a year from now, you give them $10,000 as a down payment because the down payment came from renting out the property without a mortgage payment. Now, I know this is highly unusual.
It is, because you wouldn't be paying anything for like the first year. Exactly.
But what you could be saying is, I'm going to collect the rent and then I'm eventually going to give it back to you, as a chunk of money. What puts it to be creative is there's no monthly payments for the first year. Mm-hmm. And now very few people are going to do that. But therefore, it's an option where you offer them that as a possibility. And sometimes when you offer somebody a crazy idea, they go, no, I wouldn't be willing to do that. But then what would you be willing to do? I've given them, they've rejected me. Basically, when I turned down my offer, that's a rejection. And that's good. You want them to reject you because then, therefore, part of negotiation means, what can you give me instead of the thing I asked you for? I asked you for something hard. Give me something a little less hard. And therefore, maybe it'll open up their mind to, well, I wouldn't be able to do it for a year, but I would do it for 6 months. Now you've got them do something that they would never even have considered before because you pushed them hard. You pushed them a little outside their comfort zone.
That's right.
Once again, remember that this doesn't work unless that seller is highly motivated to sell. And at a time like now, when we are moving into higher interest rates, and they'll stay higher interest rates for a period of years, but eventually they'll start to come back down. But during this time, this is creative financing time. This is when sellers are willing to accept things that last year they weren't willing to accept. Last year they wanted all cash and they wanted more than the value. Then you were negotiating with all these rich people with lots of cash. Now things get a little softer. Yeah, would you defer the down payment with no monthly payments? In other words, you say you wanted $10,000. Good, I'll give it to you a year from now. Oh, by the way, I also want no monthly payments for a year. Now, when you say, I'll give you $10,000 in a year from now, anything less than a year sounds like cash. Mm-hmm. Because a person can imagine themselves, well, a year from now, well, do I need the money now? Okay, maybe I would take the $10,000 in a year from now because it's not that far away. It's like, oh, okay, I don't need it. Maybe I would. Once again, creative financing is coming up with solutions that solve your problem and the seller's problem. And in this case, if they're desperate to sell, yeah, maybe I would take $10,000 a year from now if I get rid of it. Mm-hmm. And then I'd let you take over and maybe not make any monthly payments for a year. And then you could say, well, I'll take the net rent and I'll put it right into an escrow account. So it won't go into my bank account. I'll collect it, put it into an escrow account with your name on it, which you don't get for a year. But at the end of the year, you can see the money's growing, it's increasing. So you're trying to solve the seller's problem and your problem at the same time. And there are thousands of ways of doing that. This is just one simple, silly technique that works, by the way.
That's true. And I feel like if anything, you can always find ways of negotiate that deal. So for example, if the person is not willing to let it be for like 1 year of no monthly payments, you can say, okay, fine. What would you be comfortable with?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe they say 6 months. You already bought yourself 6 months with no monthly payments.
Exactly.
Until then.
Yeah.
And I feel like it also allows us to know what the seller is looking for, kind of trying to provide them with what they need. And I feel like that connects with another of your nothing down techniques.
Well, let's hold on just before we finish that one.
Yeah.
It is true if they have a mortgage payment to a bank, then how are they going to pay that mortgage payment if you don't make a mortgage payment to them? Well, this technique works for those people who own property that is free and clear, that has no mortgages on it. And therefore, they're not really, they don't have an obligation to make a monthly payment. The money is flowing to them this whole time. You're just asking them to let that money be diverted into a separate bank account. And I know that some realtors, when they hear this, they go, no one will ever do that. This is just ridiculous. These creative financing techniques, Robert Allen doesn't work. Well, that's because they're traditional. The realtors are traditional. And they only have one note on the piano of all the techniques. It's cash, 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 strong buyer, strong buyer, strong buyer. But they don't really realize that we're not looking for strong sellers. We're not looking for sellers who want all their cash and who can wait. And we're looking for a highly motivated seller. And they are rare, 1 in 20. 1 in 20. And the realtor usually deals with the 19 in 20. And therefore they say, well, our 19 would never do that. Yeah, but the 1 would. And so that's why we have techniques for finding highly motivated sellers.
That's right. And another of the ways that you can also find those highly motivated sellers, I feel like it's when you go on all of these websites such as Zillow and this and that, they typically have a set of listings that are like listed by a certain realtor company, but they also have the ones that are listed by the seller.
Yeah.
So that's a great opportunity, I feel like, for our audience to take a look at those houses and see what the seller actually is looking for. I feel like when you were mentioning all of these properties that are free and clear, a good indicator could also be people that are retired and they just want to sell their house.
Right.
That's a really good opportunity for you to look into.
And inheritance. Sometimes those people held on to those properties for their entire life. And now they used it to live their entire life as cash flow for their dreams. But when they pass away, usually their children or their heirs are not as inspired by managing an apartment building. Usually they don't want it. They go, thank you very much, mom and pop, for letting me have this as an inheritance. But
what about
frankly,
you now?
Yeah, exactly. I'd really just rather I don't want to work for it. Can I have a cash flow coming in? And therefore, that's where you come in. You go, let's make you an interest rate. Interest rates right now are at 7%. We'll give you 7.5%. If you give me a lower down payment and then you get this cash flow stream for the next 30 years, what a wonderful thing for you that your parents left you the possibility of getting this cash flow so you never have to worry about money again. So that's why you need to understand the seller's situation. Do they own the property free and clear? What kind of obligations do they have that they're trying to pay off with the down payment that you don't want to give them? So that's creative financing. And for the last 10 years, we have had trouble with creative financing because the money has been so prevalent. It's just, even after all the problems we had in 2008, where the money was just everywhere, anybody could fog up a mirror when it was held under their nose could qualify for a mortgage. That's changed since 2008. But still, there's lots of money for stronger buyers. So anybody who had good credit could go buy any property they wanted, and the interest rate was cheap. It was 3-4%. I mean, that's ridiculous. Well, that's no longer the case. The game has changed, and therefore more people will be highly motivated to sell. We like that.
That is true. But as the game changes, also your creativity improves and you get more deals in the market that you're in. Thank you so much, Robert. And so to our audience, there you have it. There are multiple ways that you can get into real estate. Make sure that you use your creativity so you can find them. We're going to see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.